Hey, I am Joe Selmont, and on this week of Level Up Leadership, we are going to be talking about how to handle stress and negative emotions. We've got 5 easy tips for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you want to figure out what those are, just watch the rest of this video. All right, so the first tip I have for you is to break big problems down into manageable pieces. Sometimes you just feel like you've got this thing that is so big and unwieldy. It's completely out of your control. There's just no way that you can ever get it done, right? Maybe it is midterms, for example. You're like, I've got 5 exams and an essay due. It's crazy. How could I ever do that? But then if you take this big thing, this big concept, midterms, and break it down into its component parts, then maybe you begin to realize that it is something manageable. You think, I just need to study for my bio exam. I just need to study for my econ exam. And then you knock those little pieces down one at a time. It definitely helps if you take these pieces and then write down what they are, get a task list going, and then check off each one that you accomplish. And when you do that, reward yourself. Maybe you reward yourself with a little cookie. Maybe you go get, ice cream, go for a walk. Whatever you do, every time you accomplish something, you deserve a reward. So, check it. Okay, let's talk about tip number 2. Identify what's in your control and what's outside of your control. Okay, so there are some things that cause us stress that we just really do not control. For example, maybe somebody's being a jerk. Or maybe you get sick during a really busy month. You cannot control those things. And that is okay, right? What you want to do is identify the things you can control. So that jerk, you can tell them how they're making you feel in a mature and responsible way, of course. Or if you're sick, you can email your professors and explain the situation. Those are things that you control. Now, what happens if there is something you control that is causing you stress? For example, maybe you have signed up for 7 volunteer events 7 nights in a row. That's just too much, right? That would stress anybody out. And guess what? That is something that you control. So if you identify something that's stressing you out and you can do something about it, then go ahead and do so. Now, my third tip for you is kind of a tough one for some people to manage, but hang with me while I talk about it. So my third tip is try your best to avoid spiraling. So first, let's talk about what spiraling means. Let's say, going back to our first example, that you are stressed about midterms. You're feeling bad about yourself. Now, if in that moment you allow those negative feelings to make you feel even worse, then you're spiraling, right? Now you're feeling bad about feeling bad. It doesn't totally make sense, but sometimes that's just how people feel. So what I recommend is that if you notice yourself going into the spiral, you want to A, identify that it's happening, and B, point out to yourself that that's not something you have to do, right? You can try to stop it. Now we are in the home stretch. Tip number 4, which is a great segue from tip number 3, is to discover those activities that calm you down. For me, one of those activities is reading. Lately, I've been reading a lot of Star Wars fan fiction. No big deal. Not ashamed. Not in the least. But, of course, there are lots of other highly recommended activities Those include things like exercise, and that doesn't have to be mountaineering, you know. You can go for a walk around your neighborhood. That's a-okay too. If you need some self-reflection time, then try meditating or journaling, two highly recommended activities. If you need some me time, then pop in your headphones and listen to some music or to some podcasts. That's something else that I love to do. And then, of course, super duper important, spend time with your friends and family. And that brings me to my fifth and final tip. Ask for help. You know, if you are having feelings that you can't control, if you are so stressed that it is affecting your social life, it's affecting your work life, your school life, then it's okay to ask for help. Feel free to reach out to your friends and family, of course, but there are also a lot of great resources, mental health resources, physical health resources available right here at UAA. And there is no shame at all in asking for help. I do it all the time. So that is my final tip for y'all. Ask for help. All right, folks, thanks so much for your time. Again, I am Joe Selmont, and this has been another episode of Level Up Leadership. We'll see you next week.